Hello everyone, this is Tina with Tia's Treasures, and today I have for you a quick unboxing and a few cards from the Simon Says Stamp November card kit full of thanks. By the time I finally get this posted, the December card kit might be here. I don't know, we'll find out. Anyway, this kit came, it was delivered on a day that was pouring rain, and it sat outside because I didn't know it was there. By the time I brought it in, the box was actually dripping. It came with this envelope, and the envelope and the brown paper bag, believe it or not, saved most of it. My cardstock, even you can see here, is, well, let's see, we have purple, might as well show you the colors, yellow, red, and orange, and it was a little warped, and I don't think it is anymore. I left it out to dry because it was damp more than wet, and it looks like I saved it. You probably can't tell, but right in this corner it appears to be slightly damaged, and so that's just the orange and a little bit of the red. The other colors look fine. So this was folded over, and so this protected it because this was outside of the paper bag. And I think this saved everything more than anything else. So at any rate, you get these card colors. You get this bag that has, I think this is like an orangey peach color. And now inside of the bag is all the contents that also came in the kit. Let me pull it out here. Oh, where's my candy? I must put that aside as I was pulling everything out. Candy, of course, came in the kit. We get a, come on now, it's like some scissors. Oh, excuse me, good. It's like the second video I've done where I've gotten a frog in my throat. So we have some fine detail scissors. Get your $5 off coupon, code HARVEST. We have two things of deco foil, 8 orange and 8 gold. We have adhesive transfer sheets, 2 sheets of them. You use these with your deco foil. You do not need a laminator. You can just use your die cutting machine. Stencils, layered stencils. Look at that stamp kit. Thanks for everything. I'm grateful every day for you with gratitude. Thanks, thank you. I wonder what exactly, I think this does most of the stamps. I don't quite remember. Anyhow, we also get a orange slimline envelope. There goes my dog barking. A white no lick-em to stick-em envelope. And some of Simon Says a very, very low-tack tape. I have to check this out. I know some of my low-tack tape doesn't stick worth the darn like some of this purple tape. It's stuck some cat hair. Must have fallen on the floor because the cat does not get up here on my desk. And this stuff does not stick worth the darn usually when it sticks to itself, but if I'm using it on my dies, it seems not to want to stick, and my dies sometimes move. And so while I've got you here real quick, I don't know if anybody cares, I'm going to show you my little bonus project that I've been working on. If you saw how messy my desk was right now, you would I don't know. The tape just fell onto it. It's really bad. I have everything spread all over, but I'm working on my very first vignette box from Tim Holtz, and I've got little twig and stump I'm going to be using, and I have a tree that I've already colored with some mica spray stains. And my little green tree, and I've got there's twig and stump's arms here. I've layered up a bunch of cardstock, Winter Wishes. That's not chipboard, that was me layering until it got to the thickness I like. Now these are going to be my ornaments on the tree. These are just Tim Holtz baubles that I used alcohol alcohol ink on, and my little vignette box. I'm going to take some lights, and they're going to be decorating the tree. And I think somebody else has done something similar to this. Oh, look, I put it in there, and it's a little too tall. Oh, no, I had it measured. I'll figure that out, maybe just right there. But yeah, I have some little lights we're going to string around the tree, and my little winter wishes. It's going to be my first vignette box, so I'm having fun doing it. I had a glue gun that I was going to use to get my ornaments on my tree and everything else, but I loaned it to my husband yesterday. He needed it for some things, and he broke it, so I have another glue gun coming in today, and then I can maybe finish up my vignette box. So anyhow, let's go make some cards. So in case you're interested, I thought I would show you really quick what I did. I made a lot of mistakes with this. Like I said, it's my very first vignette box. So I glued twig and stump down. I should have made them a lot thicker. I only did one layer on both of them, so they're a little flimsy. I have this little pocket I made in back, which you have to almost pull this out to turn on. But anyhow, there's my little vignette. I glued some icicles up here that I covered in rock candy. And then I didn't like the way it showed. And so I went ahead and glued a piece of tinsel up there, forgetting that I needed to put this across, which is what I wanted to do. And so that kind of ended up having to be hot glued up this way. It's okay as long as you don't pick it up there. I put some grit paste down at the bottom. I might put some more. I picked up some yellowish color, which I am not sure where that came from. And I've got this cotton I used as snow, and it's really fluffy. I am not a fan of it, so I do not think I will use this again. I bought it on Amazon, and it's just this big bag of cotton fluff that is just like, I think I need more of something more similar to like cotton balls. So anyhow, I also, I hot glued their little arms here, trying to get the little Christmas bulbs on. And I hot glued the little baubles. I might have probably should have used some smaller ones, but like I said, I forgot about putting snow on the tree till afterwards. So I just used a little glossy accent and sprinkled a little bit of mica flakes. I have a little couple gold snowflakes in back. And I did hot glue my tree right there. It's in front. If you remember, it was a little too tall. So it's right there on the edge. And I hot glued a little star. And anyhow, I thought this turned out okay for my first try. I've got a piece of chipboard on the bottom here, along with some more little chipboard, some thick chipboard that came, I think, with a Halloween set of etc. I don't even know what they're called. So just anyhow, this is it. So let's move on to our cards. So for this first card, we're going to use some of these adhesive transfers, and I'm going to use the gold with them. Now I've pulled out my mini mink, and if anyone, you could use a laminator, you could actually use your die press. Now I bought my mini mink used on eBay because I don't like to pay full price if I can get away with it. Anyhow, I am cutting out the I believe it's an oak leaf and the sentiment grateful. And I'm using the gold foil instead of the orange, and I'm putting it on a piece of red cardstock. Now the red cardstock I pulled out is from Simon Says Stamp, but it's not as bright as the one that came with the kit. And you can see here, I'm just trying to burnish that down with my finger. And I end up putting down the sentiment grateful as well, and I try to burnish that down. And I didn't read the back of the package real well because I thought you just had to run it through your machine to put the foil on, but you actually have to run it through your machine to get it to stick the way it should as well. Otherwise, the adhesive is not going to stick to your card. Now, luckily, I didn't pull the whole thing off. I just started to lift a corner up and noticed it wasn't sticking. So, you know, make sure you read first the instructions and not just think, oh, I've seen this done enough times that I know what's going on. See, there I'm burnishing it, and I thought that's all I needed to do. But no, nope. That's me peeking and going, that's not working. So I did end up saving everything by running it through, which, yeah, if I'd have read the instructions first, but I mean, why read the instructions when you can just kind of go for it and screw up everything? So, you know, this is at double speed. You can see how slowly it goes through the ink. And it's just like, I put it on 3. No rhyme or reason. I just figured 3 is a good number to try running it through. And now you can peel off the backing. Well, there's like 2 backings. There's the backing that is on the back of the adhesive, and now this backing with the actual the black color, so you can see what it is you are putting down. And I'm just going to lay down my 2 pieces of gold foil on top of that, and we're going to run it back through the ink machine. Now, I really don't know if there's an advantage of running it through with heat versus running it just through a die cutting machine. I may have to try next time putting it through my die cutting machine just to see if there is any, anything different. I haven't heard anybody say that looks different either way, so I don't know. It just gives me a little bit more chance to use my ink machine. I don't use it that often. And now I'm just going to peel that up, and unlike hot foil, this is just always turns out beautiful. Just pull it off and voila. No spare foil where there shouldn't be, and I just love the way that looks. Now I am going to cut that down to 5 by 3 3/4, and I'm gonna put it on a Nina Desert Storm card base top opening. But first I decided splatter would look really well with this. So I took some watercolors that I got, some metallic watercolors that I bought on Amazon, and they're an inexpensive set. They're, I think, called Comarelli, and it comes with the different, 2 shades of gold and a silver and some copper and brass and bronze, and it just does a beautiful job of splattering. I had no problems whatsoever. I was a little bit concerned because it wasn't some of the better name brands that I saw, that it might look really watered down, but it does not. As a matter of fact, I probably could have thinned it out even a little bit more. And now here I am. I'm just bringing in some flat spiral sequins from Pink and Main. I wanted something that was going to lay flat on my card. I just figured that it needed just a little bit more bling, and so I happened to have these. Had to go searching for something flat, but I did find these, and I am going to glue those down after I glue down my card front. And I just love writing messages on my card bases or card fronts when you can read them. And all my people that watch are lovely, which is, I just had to let you know. So I hope you got some nice plans for Thanksgiving, even if it's just sitting around in your jammies and eating peanut butter and jelly. I think that would make a really fine Thanksgiving myself, but I'm going to my daughter's. She's cooking, which makes it a really great Thanksgiving as well. Anytime I don't have to cook, booyah. So I thought I'd use 5 here, and I didn't like the way it looked, so I went back to just the three sequins. Just a little bit, you know, the power of 3. Glue them down if I can get that glue to come out. And that's going to be it for my first card. Now I only made 3 cards with this kit, and as it is, it's coming out on the cusp of Thanksgiving Eve. So I'm going to be moving into Christmas cards, I believe, after this. Now for my second card, I've got some Brutus Monroe gilded. I've got a landscape card base, an orange card front that we're going to use. And I am going to heat emboss with that gold this cornucopia of items, and we're just going to do that in the gold embossing powder. It's going to be a real simple card, no coloring needed with this one, and I am bringing in a stamp set that we got from another card kit called Big Autumn Thanks, and I'm just bringing in a sub-sentiment with that one that says, what's it say? So much for thinking of me. So the card's going to say, thanks so much for thinking of me. And I do cut this card base down, so I really probably should have moved that thanks down a little bit because it does get a little close to the edge, but it still works out in the end. And I'm just taking the adhesive. I bought one of those Misty adhesive sheets, and I thought maybe that would fit perfectly in the Misty, and it does fit in there, but it still kind of slides back and forth if you're not careful. So you still got to make sure everything is in that corner and make sure it stays in that corner because it can still move and you can get a double stamp. At least I can. I don't know about you. My stamping ability, even with the Misty, leaves something to be desired. And for a change, I actually remembered to use my anti-static powder tool. I think this one's called the Rabbit. I should look at it. I have it here. It's got a picture of a bunny on it. So yeah, the Rabbit Hole Designs is what it is. And now we're going to just put a bunch of Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, and I think I did end up having to stamp it down twice, but I only showed myself doing it once here to save a little bit of time. And we're going to get this heat embossed. Now the easiest way to take this off the adhesive sheet is to curl the adhesive sheet and not the cardstock, otherwise you'll warp your cardstock and bend it. And I'm pouring it into a coffee filter because my printer is in another room. I would prefer copy paper, I think, but I have a stack of coffee filters in my craft room just because I put them in here and they've stayed here, and I don't have a stack of copy paper that's next to the printer. So I get lazy and just use the closest thing at hand. Pouring that back in, and we are going to heat emboss this till it's nice and melted and pretty. After, of course, I clean off all the stuff I spilled because I used a coffee filter. It's easy to spill. And I determined, yeah, it's hot. So we get that going and make sure it's all melted down. And the nice thing about the gold embossing powder is you can tell real easy when it's melted. Like you can see in the thanks up there, it was not melted. It was a darker brown. And this is just such a pretty gold. And after I get this heated up, I decide that, hey, the splatter worked so well on the first card, let's do it again. So I bring in my splat box again, and I splatter it with the same gold. And I'm just using a crappy paintbrush that I pulled out. I've tried using the fan brushes, but my fan brush must be like a real crappy one too, because it doesn't do any better than this paintbrush. And I probably should have watered down the paint a little bit, because it's got some big blobs on it that, even though I'm trying to heat it up real quick here, I still end up getting some of this paint on my guillotine cutter. And I am cutting this down to 5 by 3 3/4, and as you can see, it's pretty close to the top of that sentiment. But we're going to glue this down with some, it's not the art glitter glue, it's the Barely art glue. And I love y'all, whether you're old or new here. And if you like my videos, please consider giving me a thumbs up. It helps a lot with the algorithm, and it helps to get a little bit more eyeballs on my videos. I could probably put out some more videos and do the same thing, but I think the thumbs up might work a little bit better. So I thought about putting some sequins on that card, but that was it. Now for my third and final card today, I thought about using some manila cardstock, which you saw there, but instead I brought in a real light pale yellow, and I think this is a Simon Says stamp cardstock too. I just do not remember. I had a bad habit of throwing things in my stash and then not knowing exactly where it came from. So for this card, I'm going to use the stamp that's kind of it looks like a U. And I cut it down before I even start this one. And I'm going to use some Nina Solar or Desert Storm. Now my mind went blank. I'm going to use that color there off to the right again, because I like the fall colors. And I was going to put Happy Thanksgiving at the bottom of the card, but you know, that really, I had a much better place to put it. It just took me a while to figure it out. And I also brought in some ribbon from my cardstock, some gingham ribbon from my cardstock. No, I brought in some gingham ribbon from my stash. So you can see there, me trying to figure out where I'm going to put everything. And then all of a sudden, I think I get a bolt from the blue, and I think, hey, the Happy Thanksgiving would look better on top instead of like underneath that nice little pumpkin and floral design. See, that's where it hits me, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's put it up there. And we're going to have the ribbon at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp this using some Simon Says Positively Saturated Positively Saturated ink in the mocha. If I ever end up getting it centered where it needs to be. So I do get it centered eventually. And we're going to stamp that all in mocha. I thought about heat embossing it, but decided, nah, we don't need to, because we're going to be actually using the stencil for this card. Now, each of the images that came with the stamp set, each of the big images, they each have their own stencil. And I think there's 3 or 4 stencils, and each stencil just cover one of the images. It's really kind of ingenious the way that Simon Says Stamp made this. So anyhow, I am just stamping my mocha colored stamp ink. Again, I keep saying stamp. The mocha, and I think the black, you could have used black, but I think it might have been a little bit too intense. I could have used gold embossing with this as well. If you don't have like brown, gold embossing would look really pretty. And so I'm just kind of cleaning up here. I actually do clean up my stamps after I use them. You just don't always see it. I tend to try to make these videos a little bit shorter than they would be like hours long otherwise. So here I've got this stamped down, and I'm using the positively saturated inks for all of these colors. Now this one I believe is, I think I used the field. Of course I put it down so we can't read it for this first one, but I'm pretty sure this is the color field. I could be wrong, but I used 2 greens for this. I think I should look and give you the actual name, or we can kind of try to see if I can catch the color after I close it, which might be a easier thing to do. Is that nope, that's Fairway. I was wrong. So for the pumpkin, I'm using grapefruit. I didn't want the orangest orange. Grapefruit, I think, is a really fine color to use, and it's not the color of a grapefruit, it's the color of a pumpkin. And you know, and then I'm going to use the color melon on these gourds. I think most of the time when I see gourds, I think like butternut squash or spaghetti squash, and they're kind of a pale yellow color. And so these on top of this yellow cardstock, you can't really see any color right here until I lift it off. And I used the color amethyst for the little grapes. I should have used a lighter purple, but I was going more towards the color of the top of the ink instead of what color it actually is. That's what I get for not looking at my swatches first. But because it's such a small amount of purple, it doesn't really, you know, make that big of a difference. And it's a really, really purpley purple. I guess if the color name amethyst didn't tip me off, I don't know. But it looked more like a lilac if you look at the color on the lid. And now I am going to use, now I think I use the color field for these other greenery. And we'll know in a minute here because, you know, I put all this stuff away for a change when I was done using it. Yep, field. See, I knew we used that for something. And I just use the same brush. I just try to clean it off just a little bit in between, just with the paper towel. And so now we've got like our 2 shades of green, and this is just a really pretty floral arrangement. Got our little cornucopia of you know, a pumpkin and melon and some grapes and the greenery, and it just turns out really nice looking. And I'm going to actually give this card to my daughter tomorrow. I figure she took the time to cook. All I'm doing is bringing some appetizers, a cheesecake, and some wine. You got to have some wine. I know if I was cooking, I would need the wine, so I'm bringing it to her because she'll probably need some. It's going to be small, though. It's not going to be a lot of people there, but it gives us more time to just visit individually then. And now, I know I've said this on other cards, but if you're new here, I like to always put my bows on cards in 2 pieces. Most of the time, if it's just a piece of ribbon, you'll see me put a flat piece across my card, and then I will, you know, I will tie a bow separately and glue that on, and that way I think I get the best bows. And I like the way it looks on the cards. So I am just gluing down. I always put like a piece of double-sided tape so my ribbon doesn't shift. And in this case, I think this is just leftover Spellbinders tape from some of their card kits that I'm using. And I'm just taping down the back, and I will put more glue on the back when I glue this onto the card base. And I thought about doing rabbit ears for my bow, but then I just figured, no, I'm just going to do the loop around. I've got plenty of ribbon to do that with, and it just takes a little bit of fiddling to get it exactly right and how you want it to look. And I try to get, try to get it as even as I can. And a lot of times I'm guilty of trying to be stingy with my ribbon, and it's always easier the more ribbon you have. If you get just a small piece like I do, it takes even more fiddling with it. And so you just kind of go back and forth a little bit until you get the bow exactly the way you want it to look. And I always like to use glue dots to glue these down, and liquid glue. I usually put by the actual the loops and the tails, I always put like a glue dot down so it doesn't shift as it's being mailed or gifted. And then I will also put a small glue dot in the center, and then liquid glue on either side of the center of the bow, and that way I don't have to worry about the bow shifting as it dries. And now I am just going to put a little bit actually, just enough glue on the back to get it to stick to my card base. And if you're not a subscriber yet, I would love to have you subscribe. My next goal is 600, and as you can see, I'm about 80 away from that, so I've got quite a few subscribers to go to hit 600, unless I go viral, and I don't think I've said anything stupid enough to go viral. And hopefully I never will go viral for saying something stupid. That would be the ultimate bad thing. Now, if I went viral for being funny, that might be okay, but I don't think I'm funny enough for that either. So, here's where I put down the liquid glue, and just stick that on. I was having trouble figuring out where my last glue dot under that tail should go, and that's why I just finally decided to put it down once the bow was already adhered to the card. I kept putting down my last little glue dot, and I kept having it in the wrong position and having to like peel it off. So this card, I'm going to put a few actual gold sequins that I had from my stash. I love how shiny these are, and so again I'm just using 3 of them, and just enough to give it just a little bit of extra shine. And just adhering those down with a little bit of glue, and that's gonna be it for this card. And I just love sometimes the way ribbons look on cards. I think they add something, especially like Thanksgiving. You got that kind of gingham, gives it a homey look. So these are my 3 cards. Let me know what you think of them. And thank you so much for watching. And bye-bye for now, everyone.